We begin today with our first assessment of how President Trump and his policies are doing just 3 weeks into his second term. Our CBS poll finds that a majority of Americans, 53%, approve of the job he's doing. That's a better approval number than he ever reached during his first term in the White House.
And CBS Fake News is very distraught by that fact. That's not what they had hoped to learn in their latest poll. Well, good Monday to you and welcome back. Hope you had a wild Super Bowl weekend. Not too hungover today. Well, margaritas. What do you have for New Orleans stuff? For Philadelphia, I don't know. A gunfight. What do you have? Hard to say. Welcome back. We remain at 888-630-9625. Big football game last night. It was not the greatest football game you've ever seen. I think every playoff game was a better game. The Redskins, the Commanders, not faring very well. Still better football games. Not a great football game last night. But we have a great many things going on today in Washington, D.C. The federal government is returning to work at work. And that's causing all kinds of pandemonium in Washington because, hey, where am I supposed to park? I'm not the boss of you. I'm not in charge of you. I don't know. Where did you park 5 years ago? Everybody stopped going to work 5 years ago in the government. And Joe Biden was president, so he stopped going to work. He woke up at about 10 or 11 a.m. and made it to the Oval Office after watching an episode or two of Hazel. And then he worked until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and went back into a coma in the iron lung where he resided for most of his presidency. But, coming back to work and lots of mayhem. And in the meantime, as true as one of our brilliant listeners pointed out, in the meantime, the last 5 years, the Democrats in Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, the mayor here, and people like Trayon White on the city council, they've come up with great ideas like shutting down major lanes of traffic to put bike lanes in. This ain't China. Nobody rides in it. It's not Copenhagen either. Nobody rides bikes here. It's not a bike riding place. Everybody, although I do go by, the Swedish Embassy? I go by the Swedish Embassy from time to time. Seems like every time I go by, there's a woman leaving the Swedish Embassy. She's got to be in her 70s, and she's She's on one of those scooters, that you stand up on, but it's not an electric one. It's the one you push with your foot, right? Like it's a skateboard with handlebars, And every time I go by the Swedish Embassy, here comes this lady with white gray hair, pushing her scooter along 34th Street. It's kind of an amazing thing to watch, but that's not important now. So coming back to work and it's causing all kinds of pandemonium. Oh no, there's going to be traffic. Where am I going to park? And we got the bike lanes here, and they just banned all right turns on red in Washington, D.C., the whole city. It's one of the stupidest things that anybody's ever done. But we're working on stupider things here in Washington. It is our nation's capital after all. And what else have they done? The bike lanes, the no right turn on red. Oh, they hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more speed cameras and right turn cameras so they can mail you tickets at your home, and charge you money for driving through the city. They're gangsters. It's gangsterism. It's third worldism. They're not on our side. They're not the good guys. Remarkable stuff. But lot of fun things and crazy headlines. Federal workers brace for traffic, parking as they return to office on Monday. Brace, and that's what everybody does everywhere on the planet, every day of the week. I actually did do the radio show from home for quite a while, for many months, and I couldn't wait to come back to work and drive back to work. I'm not a one-man traffic jam or anything like that. I mean, my returning to work didn't change traffic patterns, I've got to say. But I want to get to the Super Bowl stuff, too, because that's bigger than traffic and parking in Washington, D.C., believe it or not. It was kind of a big deal. Also, it looks like another fake government agency, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, is being shut down. Isn't that the one created by Pocahontas? Didn't Elizabeth Warren create this government agency so she could proudly say, I created a government agency? But this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was just stood up a handful of years ago, and now it may be shut down. How many new government departments and agencies and bureaus do we need? And won't that just increase our traffic and parking difficulties? Come on. What about traffic and parking? Let's take that into account. Why don't you? But let me get to the Super Bowl now, because I just saw something this morning that I was unaware of until not too long ago, and I said, "Wow!" Last night they had this Kendrick Lamar character. You know who this guy is? He likes to use the N-word and curse, and the Democrats gave him a Pulitzer Prize for it. I'm not even making that up. I sometimes mock that they gave him the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't think they've given him the Nobel Peace Prize, but remarkable stuff. The performance last night with Kendrick Lamar, which I was being texted all over the place about this, and a lot of people couldn't understand anything that he was saying. Some people were convinced that he was cursing, using the S word, cursing, and maybe the N word, which, if you're black, is not a curse word, right? It's fine. You can do that. But do you have any of the Kendrick Lamar music from last night? Because it was, I was being texted by people all over the place saying that was the worst, even while it was, because it was going on and on and on. And people were texting me, this is the worst. First of all, it was the worst first half of a football game in Super Bowl history. Then you go to the halftime show, and you've got Kendrick Lamar doing the Kendrick Lamar stuff, right? And I was being texted, does anybody understand this guy? Can you understand? Did he just say beep? Did he just use the N-word? And you couldn't tell, but because you really couldn't understand him. That was the greatest song ever, I think, wasn't it? Just amazing stuff. Well, something happened there last night that I was unaware of until I came into work this morning. Here's the Associated Press story. The headline is, Super Bowl halftime performer detained. Detained. What is this, Sudan? Detained after unfurling Sudanese Palestinian flag. Of course, there is no such thing as Sudanese Palestinian flag. But the guy pulled out kind of a Palestinian flag with wrote the big word Sudan on big white stripe, and then the word Gaza on a big white stripe. And the story goes like this. A performer in Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show was detained on the field and could face charges after unfurling a combination Sudanese-Palestinian flag with the words Sudan and Gaza written on it. The NFL confirmed the person was part of the 400-member field cast. The New Orleans Police Department said in a statement that, quote, law enforcement is working to determine applicable charges in this incident, end quote. I'm trying to figure out what the crime is here. You're a political radical, maybe you're a jihadi, but in the United States, I think you're not breaking the law when you pull out a flag and you're a dancer on a field at a football game. Maybe I'm just too old-fashioned, but isn't that remarkable? And, charges applicable in this incident. Maybe he was spreading misinformation because Hillary would put him in prison for that, right? The individual will be banned for life from all NFL stadiums and events, NFL spokesperson Brian McCarthy said in an emailed statement. Now, his name is Brian McCarthy. Couldn't we just call him a spokesman? Does he have to be a spokesperson? Do you think there's no gender at the Associated Press? Because I'm going to bet that Brian McCarthy is a man. He might even be normal. He's with the NFL. The performer stood on a car used as a prop for Lamar's performance and held up the flag. The NFL said the individual hid the item on his person and unveiled it late in the show, and that no one involved with the production was aware of the individual's intent. It's not a suicide vest. He didn't blow himself up. I think he's an idiot, and maybe he's from Sudan, maybe he's a terrorist. Worry about that. Rock Nation, R-O-C, not R-O-C-K, Rock Nation, the entertainment company which produced the show. Heck of a job, Rock Nation. It was the worst halftime show in the history of the world. We were hoping for a wardrobe malfunction from someone, but that didn't happen. The entertainment company which produced the show said that the act was neither planned nor part of the production and was never in any rehearsal. They had lots of rehearsals. The show continued without incident, and it did not seem as though the person was shown on the broadcast of Lamar's performance. Imagine being one of the 400 and you're never even seen. How can you not even be seen? When he whipped out his Sudan-Palestinian flag. Now, this is kind of neither here nor there, except for this. The person was detained and then turned over to the police, who are looking at what charges can be filed for holding up a flag, a protest flag. I thought in the United States of America you had First Amendment rights and things like that, but the left, they're not good at any of this. That's crazy. Yeah, my friend Mark sent me that this morning, and I hadn't even seen it. Pretty remarkable stuff, I got to say. Super Bowl halftime protester gets lifetime ban from NFL stadiums. Got a ban. That's what he's getting. That's going to be the charge. We need to know a name. You need to know the name. Is it like, Mohammed bin Laden? Because, they're hiring based on DEI things. So you're hiring radicals. You got Kendrick Lamar, who's out there saying who knows what. Even he doesn't know for sure. Performer Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show unfurled a flag emblazoned with the words Sudan and Gaza in protest over the two wars roiling the Middle East. Sure. Security personnel at the stadium detained the performer shortly after the flag was waved atop a car. CBS News is covering it now. The other was the Associated Press. Used as a prop in the performance, New Orleans police said they're determining whether any charges would be lodged against the performer. And how are you going to prevent somebody from getting into an NFL stadium forever? How does a lifetime ban from NFL stadiums? What, facial recognition programming? You could wear your N95 mask and an Eagles hat with the word Eagles misspelled on it. You see how they're selling Eagles garb with the misspelling that the Democrat mayor of Philadelphia offered us.
E-L-G-S-E-S, Eagles!
That's the Democrat mayor of Philadelphia. But now hats and shirts, T-shirts and sweatshirts are being sold with the misspelled version of Eagles that the Democrat mayor gave. Honestly, you should be removed from office in a day, I think, when you do something like that. You people. Can I say you people? Is that okay? I think I can. Okay, look what I've done to the clock again. Isn't that wonderful? All right, I've got audio that I'm going to get to. I'm going to come back to your calls, and then we're going to get to President Trump, who was at the Super Bowl for the first half of the Super Bowl at least, and other events. It was not the greatest Super Bowl football game of all time. It was really not a good halftime show at all. Boring, dull, couldn't understand a word, didn't even see the Sudanese, Palestinian, Gaza flag, any of that stuff. Remarkable. And we continue to be at 888-630-9625.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris. Maybe the most amusing moment of the halftime show and the entire Super Bowl was when 400 people crawled out of a Buick Regal. This Buick Regal, the GNX, the Grand National Experimental 1987. It's a cool car. And it was on the platform there, and like 8 people climbed out of it, and turns out there was a hole in the ground underneath the car, and hundreds of people came crawling out. It was like an homage to illegal aliens sneaking into the country and hiding in the trunk or something. Pretty cool car, but that was ridiculous. Then the guy with the Palestinian and Gaza flag because Democrats, you know. All right, let's go to the telephones again, Michael. Let's go to Charles, calling from the great state of Pennsylvania. Charles, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Well, hi, Chris. I've listened to you for a long time, but never had an opportunity to talk to you. But anyway, my wife and I were kind of pondering what we should do last night, watch the Super Bowl or not. And she started watching a little bit of it, and she said, "Who's Kendrick Lamar?" And I said, I think he might be a football player, but so we're of a different generation. We're in our 70s.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, she starts watching it for a little bit, and then we decided to turn it off, and we're going to watch something different. So we watch Turner Classic Movies pretty frequently. So we flip the channel, and we turn on TCM. Well, guess what's on? It's To Kill a Mockingbird with Gregory Peck.
Uh-huh.
So, and I know what he said a couple different times in the movie, and other people that were acting in the movie, and it was the N-word.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's a little bit ironic when I hear you talking about the Super Bowl, and they couldn't understand what he was saying. So anyway, and then I said to my wife, I said, "Hey, I think that you can't even read To Kill a Mockingbird in school anymore." I think that might be true in a lot of places.
Oh, I believe that is true, yeah, because it has a bad word in it. But if you're Kendrick Lamar, the people at the New York Times make sure you get a Pulitzer Prize for singing the N-word all over the place because, he's black and you're not. Therefore, 2 races, 2 standards, no waiting. And you're right, To Kill a Mockingbird is one of the great motion picture classics. It's based on the Harper Lee book, of course, one of the classic bits of American literature, and wonderful cast, wonderful movie, very powerful movie. And I got to say, you didn't miss a whole lot missing the game last night. I'll give you that, Charles.
I certainly got caught up with what you've informed me of. So anyway,
yeah,
it was nice to watch the movie. We had seen it once before several years ago, and I'm thinking, I don't remember all this stuff in the movie, so it was a good time to revisit it.
Good idea. All right, last night, the Super Bowl licks. Yeah, L-I-X. The NFL still uses Roman numerals, which is good by me. I like Roman numerals. It keeps the Roman Empire alive, and we should all think about the Roman Empire every day. I certainly do. Very important. Foundations of civilization in the world. Thank you, Rome. But, LIX 59. That's because, most people under 30 don't know anything about Roman numerals. Nothing at all. M is 1,000. Think millennium. Right? C is 100. Think century. L is 50. Nobody knows why. It doesn't, there's no word 50 with an L, like century and millennium. And then X, of course, like Malcolm the 10th. That's 10. X is 10. Then if you have an I before that, that's -1, so that's 9. So LIX is 59. See? And honestly, ask anybody to decode Roman numerals for you anymore, and most people can't tell you what Roman numerals are anymore. It's kind of, it's part of the death of Western civilization. We're not teaching anyone anything. We're not passing along knowledge or wisdom, certainly. Now let's go to President Trump yesterday, he was there in the stadium, which is, what's it called? The Salad Bowl. It's called the Salad Bowl, right? It's Caesar. Caesar. It's not the salad. It's the casino. I see. Caesar's Uber Bowl and, Superdome. But I think if it's called Caesar's, it should be the Salad Bowl, shouldn't it? I think so. Speaking of which, there was a little bit of an entertaining and amusing story that was shared with me last night that I then, by a friend, that I then shared with other friends. And it's about the origin of the name Super Bowl, right? Hey, why is it called the Super Bowl? You might want to know. And nobody knows why it's called the Super Bowl, right? Except people do know. Somebody knows. Why is it called the Super Bowl? Well, because long ago, listen to this. In the mid-1960s, Lamar Hunt, who was the owner of the American Football League's Kansas City Chiefs at the time, first used the term Super Bowl in the mid-1960s. Lamar Hunt, owner of the Chiefs, to refer to the AFL-NFL championship game, and they were having merger meetings, right? And I got this big game. What do we call it? And Lamar Hunt started calling it the Super Bowl. Hunt later said the name was likely in his head, Super Bowl, because he said his children had been playing with a Super Ball. You know, the hard rubber Super Bowl. I have one at home. I have a full-sized, black Super Ball at home. And every now and then it's just fun to bounce the Super Ball real hard. And so his kids have been playing with a Super Ball, which is a hard rubber bouncy toy. Vintage example of the ball of the Super Bowl is actually on display at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. And in a July 25th, 1966 letter to NFL Commissioner at the time, Pete Rozelle, Lamar Hunt wrote in the letter, quote, "I've kiddingly called it the Super Bowl, which obviously can be improved upon." And I thought, that's kind of fun. Good for Lamar. His kids were playing with a Super Bowl, and then they've got a bowl game coming up. I'd call it the Super Bowl. And it stuck, and he's like, and Lamar said, "I have kiddingly called it the Super Bowl, which obviously can be improved upon," is kind of funny. And it stuck, even though he thought it wasn't the greatest name for the big football game. It stuck, which is pretty good. Wah, wah, wah. Also a great crazy story out of Chicago, because the owner of the Chicago Bears, the matriarch of the McCaskey family, owners of the Chicago Bears, Virginia McCaskey, died last week at the age of 102. 102. And now in Chicago, there is talk that the family, now that Virginia McCaskey has died at the age of 102, that the family may want to sell the Chicago Bears. But it turns out this could be complicated, because there was, when she died, there was no guidance given, and there must be a will somewhere, but it sounds almost like there's no will in the McCaskey family saying what should be done with the team, the Chicago Bears, presumably their largest holding. But listen to this, 102-year-old Virginia McCaskey died, leaving the family that owns the Chicago Bears with no direction. And she has 9 living children, 40 grandchildren, 10 great-grandchildren, and 4 great-great-grandchildren. And nobody knows who owns the Chicago Bears. Wow. That's pretty nuts. Yeah, so Virginia McCaskey, 102 years old, passed away, and now the team is in the hands of the family, with 9 living children, 40 grandchildren, 10 great-grandchildren, 4 great-great-grandchildren. That's a lot of offspring right there. That's pretty crazy, I got to say. Yeah, and there's an article. Whose article is this now? the sportsmockery.com, but they're lifting from other. There is no plan in place as to what to do with the team. Womp, womp, womp. That's pretty nutty. That's having money in the family is good, but having a clear will is a good thing, too, I think, in circumstances like that. All right, I still haven't gone. Let's go to soundbite number one. Number one. President Trump is there in the stadium. He's in a skybox. He's with his lovely daughter Ivanka, who is looking wonderful. And there was a woman to his right. I don't know who the woman was. There were other people in the skybox, the booth, whatever you call it. And, he's got the good seats. And they were doing the anthem, the national anthem of the United States of America, after doing Lift Every Voice and Sing, the black national anthem, because the Democrats love racial division. They've loved racial division ever since they were living on their plantations with bullwhips and all that stuff. But then they did the American national anthem, which is for people of all races and is not a racist national anthem that, the kind that the Democrats like because they're racists. But President Trump there in the national anthem is standing. President Trump stood up, and as commander-in-chief, he was saluting Ivanka next to him with her hand on her heart, and who can blame her? And so the camera went to President Trump, and he showed up on the jumbotrons in the stadium, and you'll never guess what happened.
Broad stripes and bright stars through the pen.
Now go to Trump on and the crowd. In New Orleans, the crowd cheers. The crowd goes wild. They couldn't be subdued. Not really. It was all very polite, but a very nice round of applause for the President of the United States. And he's standing for the anthem and saluting Commander-in-Chief of the United States Armed Forces and all that good stuff. And then there was Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift was there. She was in the stadium. There were other kind of, Hollywoody people, none too interesting, I think. But Taylor Swift was there, and she sings songs, and she also dates a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. And she was and there were a lot of Philadelphia fans in the stadium, too. But Taylor Swift was at the Super Bowl, and the camera then went to her, and she was on the Jumbotron. A lot of booing, and she's looking around like, what is this about? Why am I getting booed by the crowd at the stadium in New Orleans at the Salad Bowl? Why am I being booed by the crowd? That's crazy. And the answer is, of course, Philadelphia fans is and then there's another possible answer. Kansas City fans, because they probably had about enough feud too, being so much a part of their football team's story. But here's what Taylor Swift said after she was booed at Super Bowl 2025. The New York Post headline, Taylor Swift's 3-word reaction has been revealed after the 14-time Grammy Award winner was pelted with boos during the Super Bowl 2025 matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday. The cruel summer hitmaker, who's 35 years old, completely over the hill, appeared on the Jumbotron inside Caesars Superdome, the Salad Bowl, but was quickly met with loud boos from die-hard Birds fans, Eagles fans, spell it any way you'd like, causing Swift to do a subtle double take before smiling. But after being caught off guard by the harsh reception to her presence, the singer turned to her pal and rapper, Ice Spice, in the VIP box and said, "What's going on?" That's it. Just, what's going on? She's like, well, you're being booed by a stadium full of people at at the Super Bowl, at the Salad Bowl. Isn't that amazing? What's going on? The Fortnite singer who was at the game to cheer on her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, was seen saying on the scoreboard in response to the boos, "What's going on?" She just kind of couldn't believe it. That's fair enough. Adam Sandler appeared on the Jumbotron. Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd is the most overrated Hollywood bad actor in the history of overrated Hollywood bad actors, but never mind that. Unfazed by the booing, she smiled ahead of the Chiefs' blowout. 40-22, the Chiefs lost to the Eagles. And boy, and it's amazing they put 22 points on the board. And it was kind of a last-minute thing. So she was booed, and what's going on? Understandable. She's a pop star. She's got 2 private jets, just in case one, needs cleaning, something like that. And then there was one piece. It was one of the first things I texted Michael Piercy this morning on our text thread. I said, grab this Kendrick Lamar bit from his big show, his big song, whatever it was, at the halftime show, at the worst halftime show ever at a Super Bowl. And I said, this is good for radio. We might use this in radio ads.
Somebody gotta turn his TV off, 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 turn his TV off.
Turn his TV off, turn this TV off. See, and you should add, and turn the radio on, right? And that the thing. Womp, womp, womp. All right, let's see. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Marco calling from Springfield, Virginia. Marco, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for taking my call. Hey, I have a solution for the Super Bowl halftime shows that we use regularly. It's called the power of the DVR. What you do is you put it on pause when the halftime show comes on, and you go and you have something good to eat, conversation with friends, whatever, and then when you come back, you can fast forward it to the point where the show is over, and that way you don't have to put up with any stupidity. Now, if it's a good halftime show, you can always rewind it and see the good halftime show and then get caught up with the game. But, so that's the solution, because some of these shows have been absolutely stupid in the past.
Yes, they have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last night was one of them, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great movie with Matthew McConaughey on Netflix called something whatever north that has to do with the life of Newton Knight, who was a great abolitionist kind of. He was a Confederate soldier deserter, but actually turned out to be quite the hero of the Southern. And I would recommend that movie to just about anybody.
A Matthew McConaughey movie on Netflix about abolitionists. And are you saying that you turned that on last night when the football game was on? Is that what you're saying?
No, I watched it before the football game, and there's the N-word's in there a lot, but it's used in a context where it's not just applied to people's color. It's applied to ignorant people. So when they use the N-word, they're talking about ignorance, not talking about color, not talking about slavery, okay? And it's a real word. It's called the Free State of Jones.
Free State of Jones.
I would
That as well. The DVR suggestion is a very good suggestion, and I used my DVR last night, certainly, and it's the halftime show you could have missed. Now, for me, you understand, Marco. For me, I kind of had to watch it because it's part of talking about it today. So I've got an obligation to watch it, and I was texting with friends. Oliver, I was texting with people in 4 different time zones about the football game last night, and the halftime show was not going over well with anybody. I didn't find anybody that said, no, this is a good halftime show. I'm liking this. It's really, really great. Completely nuts.
Yeah.
Marco, and thanks.
The standards have been lowered.
You bet.
And thank you, Chris.
Thank you for the movie review, too. That's fun. And, but the DVR is the digital video recorder. Most people don't. You ask what a DVR is, and they'll say it's that thing that records, right? So the digital video recorder that some cable systems and things have, and I use my DVR very, very regularly, mostly not because of sports, but because of the business I'm in and news and sound bites. And covering the news and going, wait, did they really just say that? So I can back up and do all that. So I do a lot of that. But yeah. Crazy man, crazy. Had a little scratchy on the Marco phone there, too. A little scratchy every night. It sounded like a record album on a turntable. What's going on with that? Probably on our end. Womp, womp, womp. We have President Trump's interview coming up. That interview, then a press conference aboard Air Force One. Lots of President Trump coming up. Okay. President Trump's interview and press conference yesterday coming up. He did call the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. A lot of people did, of course. But they didn't show up. And Mahomes didn't show up. He's told the fans of Kansas City, we will be back. Yeah, well, I would, you're getting paid again next year, so yeah. All right, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Mark calling from Toronto, which we keep in Canada, America's hat. Mark, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Chris, glad, first-time caller, and but listening for years.
Welcome.
Several years now.
Welcome. I'm happy you called in.
Yeah, I thought I love your discussions. That's why I listen, not to just be on the radio and spout my own stuff. I like to listen. But I thought, I got to say something. There are Canadians that would probably be very happy to be the 51st state. And there are a lot of Canadians that totally oppose, obviously,
sure.
Sovereignty, blah, 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 blah,
You know what? I want to hear more from you on this. Can you hang in for a couple of minutes? Because I don't think I left you enough time. Can you hang in for a couple of minutes? Please do.